Hello everyone. Today we will start the first lesson from your History and Civics section. Lesson 1. The Renaissance and Reformation. Page number 8. So, before moving on to the explanation of the Renaissance and Reformation, it is important for us to have a little background knowledge about what the world was like before Renaissance. Renaissance, as I already told you in the previous class, it means rebirth or revival, and it is a French word and it is pronounced as Renaissance. And so before learning about Renaissance, we will have to learn a little about the medieval period, and for that we need to study the very first page of your book, A Period of Transition, page number 7. A period of transition. Transition means an event that results in transformation, that is undergoing a change. At first we will just go through the first, second and third paragraph, and after that I will explain everything to you in details. You might come across some new words or some terms that you haven't heard before, but I will explain that in the later part of the video. So the term Middle Ages or medieval period is used to describe the period between the 6th and 15th centuries, almost a period of 1000 years. This was the time period between the fall of Roman Empire and Renaissance in Europe. During this period, artistic and intellectual achievements of the classical world were lost and forgotten. Artistic, anything related to a painting, music, singing, acting. And intellectual means involving your intelligence or using the mind creatively. Of the classical world, we will detail that in the we will talk about it in details later, were lost and forgotten. So during this period, during this Middle Age or medieval period, these things were lost. People forgot about these intellectual achievements and artistic achievements. These transitional centuries were a period of stagnation, as feudalism was the order of the day. Now, stagnation means a state of inactivity, like nothing is happening at that time. As feudalism is a different order, it has a different meaning, was the order of the day. So at that time, feudalism was dominating the society. Feudal social order stood in the way of social and cultural development. So this feudalism acted as an obstacle or a barrier on the road towards development. The Roman Catholic Church dominated all aspects of politics and religion in European society. Disintegration of the feudal social order that began in 15th century ushered in a new era and marked the beginning of the modern age. Disintegration means breaking up something. So what is breaking up? Feudal social order. That means this feudalism was broken, and it started breaking up in 15th century, and this this integration of feudalism that ushered in means something, showing something, bringing something, brought in a new era and marked the beginning of the modern age. That means the Renaissance period. This period has been termed as the Renaissance period. It is marked by artistic development, scientific progress, philosophical ideas, commercial development, and human progress. So basically, the things that were forgotten, that means forgotten, lost and forgotten in the Middle Ages, were again began to come back in the Renaissance period. So as a result, this is called as Renaissance. That means rebirth, something that is now renewing itself. So we will now discuss about what exactly is Middle Ages or medieval period. Middle Ages or medieval period. In the history of Europe, the Middle Ages or medieval period lasted approximately from the 5th to the late 15th century. It began with the fall of the Western Roman Empire and ended with the beginning of Renaissance. During the medieval period, the intellectual achievements of the classical world were lost and forgotten. So it can be said that during the medieval period, the intellectual achievements that people achieved, the development that happened before the beginning of medieval period came to a big stop, like the development that happened in the classical world were lost and forgotten. So Middle Ages, this period that lasted for about 1000 years. During this period, basically no development took place in Europe. The society that was supposed to go forward began to go backwards. Intellectual development and the artistic achievements that came into being in the classical period were completely lost and forgotten by the people during the Middle Ages. Now, why it happened, we will talk about that later. But before that, it is important for us to learn what exactly is classical world. Now, what is classical world? The classical world or the classical period is the period of cultural history between the 8th century BC and the 6th century AD on the Mediterranean Sea that involved both the civilizations of ancient Greece and ancient Rome, that is popularly known as the Greco-Roman world. It is the period in which both Greek and Roman societies flourished and wielded great influence throughout Europe, Northern Africa, and Western Asia. Flourished means expanding, booming, and will means maintaining. During the classical period, that is 8th century BC to 6th century AD, the Greco-Roman culture made tremendous progress and positively influenced many aspects of their society like language, politics, law, educational systems, science, philosophy, architecture, warfare, and so on. That means during this period, the social order experienced a lot of developments in various fields. And during this classical period, the people became greatly interested in learning, discovering, and using scientific principles. The discoveries made during this period by Greek mathematicians, including Pythagoras and Euclid, are still used today. During this period, Archimedes laid the foundations of hydrostatics and statics and explained the principle of the living. It is also during this period that medical science made a lot of progress. Herophilus, who was a physician, dissected human body and described the nervous system for the first time. And also during the classical period, the democratic forms of government began to form in Athens and Rome before they completely disappeared with the beginning of the medieval period. So the classical world is the period when the society, especially the European society, made a lot of progress in a lot of fields. So if the Roman Empire hadn't fallen, because this classical period ended with the fall of the Roman Empire, which captured a large portion of Europe during that time. So if the Roman Empire hadn't fallen, then perhaps the medieval period would not have begun, and perhaps the progress started in the classical period would have continued, and the world would have been an entirely different place right now. So keep in mind that the classical period was marked by tremendous progress in a lot of fields in the society, whereas the medieval period is marked by a period of stagnation or inactivity that stopped all progress that was taking place before the onset of the Middle Ages. Now the question is, why did all the progress and development of the society stop during the medieval period? The medieval period is also known as the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages because it represents a period of stagnation or inactivity. The main reason that made the social progress inactive is feudalism. Now, let us talk about feudalism. Feudalism is a social system in which people were given land and protection by people of higher ranks, and in return, these people had to work and fight for them. During the Middle Ages, the basic government and society in Europe was based around the feudal system. Small communities were formed around the local lord and manor. The lord owned the land and everything in it. He would keep the peasants safe in return for their services. The lord, in return, would provide the king with soldiers or taxes. Under the feudal system, land was granted to people for service. It started at the top with the king granting his land to a baron for soldiers, all the way down to a peasant getting land to grow crops. The center of life in the Middle Ages was the manor. The manor is a mansion run by a local lord. It could be a large house or a castle where people would gather for celebrations or for protection if they were attacked. A small village would form around the castle, and farms would then spread out from there, which would be worked by the peasants. Around 90% of the people living in the Middle Ages were peasants. They owned nothing and had to follow the local lord's order without question. They had to work very hard, and most of them died before they reached the age of 30. Therefore, during the Middle Ages, the majority of the population remained poor and had no access to education. However, the ruling class became richer and richer and paid no attention to developing the social order. Hence, people forgot the intellectual achievements of the classical age.